What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder, and today I got another amazing guest here, two-time guest. He's back again, Josh Marzucco. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you live in person.
That's right.
You know, we did the Zoom a while back. I think that was probably, 2 years ago, maybe even longer that we did
Probably
that.
a little longer.
Yeah. So a lot has changed, and definitely want to get into it too with you on the leadership side, your scaling of Marzucco Real Estate, talk real estate in general, agents, you managing as many agents as you have. We'll talk that. So excited that you're here, man. It's always a great conversation with you.
I appreciate it.
Everybody, you guys know the routine. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Go on YouTube, watch all past episodes. They are all there. And check out all past episodes on the podcast. Jay, kick it off. The Real Build is about building better culture, leaders, visionaries, community to better serve the client. I'm your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder, and I'm here to showcase real business owners building companies with integrity, trust, and a commitment to making a positive impact. Join us as we explore their stories, insights, and strategies for success. With that being said, welcome to The Real Build. So I want to get into it with you, man. You know, it's been a while since we talked. So let's just open up with where is Marzucco Real Estate now from the past? I mean, because people can go to the past episode. You've come a long way.
Yeah.
So a lot more agents, a lot more going on. So a lot more offices opened up too around the state. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So, started out in late 2017 in an office not bigger than this studio. And, we had one agent, Jesse Logan, turned into 3, turned into 10, and needed a bigger office. And we got that. And, fast forward to today, and we're pushing 500 agents statewide and 5 offices. So we recently moved about a year and a half ago right down here to 5th Avenue. And we have Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Plant City, Florida, and we're actually way up in Lake City, Florida.
Oh. Wow.
So,
any future plans on expanding out of the state, or?
You know what? I took the test. And I took the broker reciprocal test in Georgia and didn't pass. It was tough. Drove up there 8 hours and studied like you wouldn't believe. Got to the test and then felt like I didn't recognize anything.
Wow. Yeah.
And I felt like they don't want us Florida brokers up in Georgia. I mean, it was tough. I actually really put in the time to study. So I need to get back up there and do it. But I plan to open an office in the Lake Oconee area in Georgia. So,
nice.
Yeah.
How many agents are you guys up to now?
Probably just under 500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So on that note, I want to get into kind of the leadership side of things too. So you being the managing broker and leading a company of 500 agents, how do you do that?
Well, actually, I did it on my own for a while, but about a year ago, I hired Deshaun Robinson, who was one of our original agents. He's our, technically our managing broker now. As the owner and having a broker's license, I'm still very involved. But all the nitty gritty and all the contracts, and if we ever have an issue, those all run through Deshaun. So, you get to a point where you need help. You can't do it on your own. You can't manage that many agents, in a justifiable, good timing, stuff like that, getting back to people on time. So you need help. And about a year or so ago, I got Deshaun involved, and he's been amazing. Couldn't do it without him. You can't scale without help.
Yeah. I agree.
A good mentor of mine is Tom Stefansi. He was the president of Deutsche Family Wine and Spirits for about 15 years. And he told me probably 3 or 4 years ago, if you don't let go, you don't grow. So you gotta let go of the reins a little bit. You gotta, put some trust in other people. And it's hard to do that. I came from the bar business with my dad. He had Zookies for 17 years, and he was there every day for 17 years, never hired a manager, never had a kitchen manager. It was him doing everything. And it's hard to do that. It takes a lot out of you physically and emotionally. So you got to let go a little bit.
I agree, man, and I think it's a challenge for a lot of us as business owners too, because you get into it, especially you building it, right? You know what works, what doesn't, and to pass that on to somebody else, it takes a lot of trust too.
Absolutely.
But highly agree with you too. Like, we've scaled a lot. We have 10 employees now, and it's just because these bigger these houses get, the more product we put out, and to keep that standard of excellence, you have to have more people. Otherwise, it just goes crazy.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And on your end too, I mean, to manage 500 people by yourself would almost be impossible. But to have those, and I'm sure you got key agents too that are there.
Yeah.
I know you always have, because social media and stuff too, and you and I staying in touch over the years. It's just, I see that you've put good leadership into place. Right. So talk about that a little bit.
I have, I think, a total of 7 employees now, regular employees, not, including the agents. Catalina's our general manager. She's licensed. She's been amazing. She's been with me since 2019. I've been in the business for 15 years. Janice Diaz, Isabella, Deb kind of runs our northern offices, Deb Diorico. And so you can't do it by yourself. And probably about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I started to realize that, I always had basically only Catalina on staff and then Janice. But and there's a threshold, running 100% commission brokerage. Yeah. So we're not doing commission splits. So you got to really, as you scale, you got to really be careful as you hire.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to hire yourself out of business and either have a too high of a payroll. For me, the biggest thing in this is expenses, managing the offices and managing the employees and the expenses.
Go into a little bit, like, what was one of the hardest things or seasons? We all go through struggles and stuff in building business. And like I said, I really want to highlight the building of your business too, because we talked about kind of, the initial start of it in the last episode. Go check that out. But but talk about, like, one of the hardest seasons in the process of building Marzucco that you went through.
It was a wild ride along the way. It was fun. We were having a lot of fun doing it. But when we started to really get some agents and start recruiting some agents, and we never really did like paid recruiting. We were really good with social media, and kind of let that speak for us. And agents were reaching out to us organically. But I think once other brokerages started noticing that, and brokerages that do a lot of paid recruiting started really going after our agents, and we had some agents starting to put up some numbers. And these big guys are coming out of the woodwork, handing them bonuses and sign-on bonuses and stuff like that. So that was definitely a trial to go through, and you can't really let it get to you. But in a way, you feel like you're being attacked. Like, hey, we're just a little guy still.
Yeah.
We're technically a mom and pop shop. We have a lot of agents now. But like, what are they going after our agents for? But then I started to realize it's pretty flattering.
Yeah. I was about to say, yeah.
We're putting out some agents that are doing some business. And, so that was one of them. Definitely, 2024 and 2025, the years, post COVID, things were, really good, 21, 22 and into 23. But a lot of agents fell out of the business in 24 and 25. And, the hardest part is to, try to keep agents motivated. And when you're going through something like that, a slow season, and, you want to keep a light at the end of the tunnel for them. And if some agents aren't making sales, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
That was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, talk about, you touched on being, feeling like you were attacked, right? But then in the end, like you just said too, it's more flattering than not that people are trying to take agents that you have. So, getting those agents to stay there though, and not take on those deals, right? That's good culture. Right. So I want to highlight that with you, the culture of Marzucco Real Estate, and keeping the foundation, the people that are doing big numbers, because I mean, it's in real estate, you see it all the time. I know agents that have bounced around. Some of them got me to go to places, and then they left within 2 months. They went to another place, then they left within the next year, went to another place. Now they're at another place. And I was joking with one of them that I know. I'm not going to say his name. I'm like, you're like the Ryan Fitzpatrick of real estate, man. You've been on every football team, every real estate. I was like, you've been in every branch there is, and you always talk highly of everyone you're in, but then you leave.
Yeah.
So I want to highlight that with you, the culture and keeping those people, because that's so important. That's important to us as an organization with the building. And our employees want to be there. So talk about that, because I mean, you just had your Christmas party, right? And there was a ton of people there. I see it all over social media. Like, that's a great thing, man. People having fun, getting together. It's not just about business, it's about culture and community. So talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I realize is with people, and especially agents, they're all independent contractors. And if someone has their mind made up or they got talked into something, you're usually not gonna get them to turn around. But whenever an agent leaves, and it happens, it's part of the business, I'm always very cordial and I say I'm happy for them for their new opportunity. Doors always open if you want to come back. And a lot of times, probably 80% of the time we get the agents back within 6 months or a year, because they realize, the grass isn't greener on the other side. But as far as culture, we try to put the agents first, show them all the recognition, not the broker or one person taking all the glory. We do a lot with the community. We just fed probably 250 people out in Immokalee for Thanksgiving. And, we probably had 40 agents show up for that. And, they felt good about it. They felt like they're giving back and helping. And then, turn around 4 weeks later, we did a toy drive at our Christmas party. And those toys went out to a church in Immokalee. So, and as far as the Christmas party, like, we did a big award ceremony this year for rising stars, top producers for 2024. We like to give our agents recognition. As you see on social media, we're promoting the agents constantly, and they see that, and we want to make them feel, like they're at home. And it's definitely hard to keep everyone happy. As you're never going to keep everyone happy. But we certainly try our best. I can tell you that. And it's a pretty cutthroat business, with the recruiting and brokers, presenting shiny stars in front of agents and bonuses and stuff like that. So, it's definitely kind of like a niche thing that I feel that I have. That's why I feel like I'll always be involved no matter what, even if my, kids get involved one day. I feel like, I've been called a people pleaser. But it's definitely tough to keep up the culture. But I feel like we do a pretty good job at it. And it's not just me, it's my whole team, Deshaun, Kat, everyone. I've always said since day one that we work for the agents, just because they hang their license here and, they're not technically an employee, but they represent the brand. Yes. But I always tell our staff that we work for the agents. And, I think that goes a long way with keeping the agents happy and excited about the culture. And we do a lot of events and stuff like that. And, I know they look forward to that.
I love what you said there is we work for the agents, and it with you, man, I see it too, because you're always like the prime example. Like, you're always reposting what your agents are posting too. I mean, most brokers, most people don't do that. They don't share their people's content. They don't, maybe they have a Marzucco brand Instagram or whatever that reshares things or whatever, but you're actually doing it personally and promoting those people and hyping them up, almost like the hype man of the business, which is huge. Because it's such a hard business too. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, like, you mentioned earlier, the drop off, right? The last couple of years, things have been slower. Economy's changed a little bit. Things aren't just fire sailing. There's not bidding wars, all that crazy stuff. You can no longer walk into a house, open the door, and just sell it.
Right.
You actually have to put in the work. So how do you deal with that with agents like that? are on the verge of leaving, that really aren't producing, but have the potential to produce. Like, we all know, I mean, in the real estate business, there's going to be people that come and go. They're just in real estate to try and make a quick buck. Usually that doesn't happen. Then they go back to what they were doing before.
Yeah.
But there's skilled people that are good at it and can make a career out of it. So you being in that leadership role, so they don't leave and give up, how are you pushing, to keep them there?
Just trying to keep them as motivated as possible. And, at the end of the day, a lot of things come down to money. If an agent is struggling, they have bills to pay. Some agents might pick up a side job or, a part-time or even a full-time job. So I've had a lot of agents in the past couple of years that have came to me, and I know they have a lot of potential. Either they've, were really busy in the past and they slowed down quite a bit. And I've put their monthly fees on pause. I've done things like that to still keep them involved, because you'll notice a lot of agents will just drop out. They'll just give up and quit, because they feel that, either things are getting too expensive, the board dues, stuff like that. I've even covered board dues, for agents that have been in a little bit of a struggle. So I feel like that has really gone a long way. Because you don't want agents to quit. They might have had a bad, 4 to 5 months, and but in 2 years they, could sell 30 homes.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped out quite a bit along the lines of, trying to keep them motivated. But, well as I do that, you just can't make sales come out of thin air.
Yeah.
You got to build your brand. You got to work at it. You got to work your pipeline. And you never know essentially where your next buyer or seller is coming from.
So as you've grown too, another question I wanted to ask you is, what's been harder? Has it been, scaling systems or actually leading people as you've grown?
I feel like probably scaling the systems has been a big challenge. We've done a lot of trial and error with a lot of things. There's so many different things now for real estate as far as like CRMs, back office technology, and everything's so freaking expensive.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of trial and error. These companies come in and pitch you, and most of the time they don't get me, but I've tried a few different things over the time, and I feel like we have it down to a pretty finely tuned machine now. I've always been good with people. That's what I felt like was a natural ability of mine. So that really wasn't the challenge, but definitely scaling systems was a big challenge.
Yeah, and as you get bigger, the systems need to be put in place. I mean, we're going through it right now, too, to where we're having to revamp the system that we have, too. And we have an employee that is just redid our scheduling and all these different things. Yeah. Because, I mean, people want to know what's going on. And the real estate side of things, too, as an agent, you need to know what's going on. But there's a lot of moving pieces, parts, all these different things, too. And for 500 agents, you got to have something in place that is really there as a tool to make their lives easier.
Yeah, people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes, like, just to get an agent paid, what you have to have in order just to legally pay an agent.
Yeah.
And thank God for our staff and our systems. Like we had our first ever DBPR audit about a year ago, and we had never had one before. And I guess they're random, you get them within every 5 years, and they just come right into the office. And, we pulled up on the flat screen in our conference room the paperless pipeline, and I was freaking out. I don't even have to log into paperless pipeline. Like I don't use it. I don't sell, but that's our filing system, for agents to stay accountable and to get their commission checks. And Kat and Deshawn are just in there she would just call out an address, and Kat typed it in, and boom, it's there. All the paperwork's right there. And I'm like, thank God for this system. But and we passed it with flying colors. Like you can get a $250 or $500 fine per discrepancy, and we didn't get any. And the lady actually said this is actually was a very successful audit. And it wasn't as bad as what we thought it was, but we had never had one before. So the last year I've been very big on systems and technology to stay organized, to scale.
Yeah. And another thing I've noticed with you too, and I want to highlight this, is relationship building, right? You and I obviously have a relationship, but like the relationships you've built with, other companies and businesses to make the lives of your agents easier, to resources, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's important to have those go-to trusted resources, I should say. Let's rephrase that, because there's a lot out there, but to pin them down and narrow them down to good people that are like-minded, right? That are going to do a good job, deliver a good product is huge, and I think you've done very well with that too.
Yeah. Thank you. But that's, going back to, I love people. Like I love the bar business. I love being behind the bar. My first few sales came out of Zucchi's, bartending, and I've always, could talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And, building relationships with our title company, with our mortgage company, Lauren Maxwell and David Jett alike, they've believed in us when we had one agent. And, fast forward, 10 years later, I'm still, working with them and referring them business. And I've been approached 1,000 times by different companies, and, people promise the world, and they, know how it goes. They, they come in and try to sell you and, say how, how great it's going to be and how great their systems are. And I don't like change. And I know for a fact agents don't like change.
No.
And I'm very loyal in the aspect of business, to work with the same people and keep referring the same people. So I think, relationships are the foundation of real estate.
Yeah.
Nowadays with AI and systems and tools, agents are, generating leads, but I think long term, the foundation of real estate is creating good relationships.
What do you think about the AI side of real estate? Talk about that a little bit, because that's such a huge thing right now, and where it's going. Is the agent going to disappear? I don't see it as, maybe in the high end. I definitely don't see it. I think representation needs to be there in the high end. Maybe in the lower end, yes, you can just click and buy a house like Carvana or something like
that. I think Carvana is a great company, but I don't think it fully took off like they thought it would.
No,
it's a great theory, and it's convenient, but buying a car is different than buying a house.
True,
way.
Yes.
And like you said, at the high end, I don't think it could ever replace the physical agent. Maybe on like rental sites and stuff like that, as this, younger generation gets more into it. I use Chat GPT every now and then, to look stuff up. Deshaun, our managing broker, Ricky jokes, and one of our agents, jokes and says, "I think Deshaun is made out of AI." Like, I think Deshaun is AI. That's how much he uses it, but uses it to our advantage in the sense of staying organized, to send a really nice email. Deshaun really goes to bat for our agents, if there's an issue, and he'll use, a form of AI to really keep things organized and break it down on how the situation happened. So I think it's great for aspects like that, but, I don't think it's ever going to replace the physical agent.
No, I think the more it gets pushed, I think the more people are going to want a presence of a physical person too. I think one-on-one interaction is more sought after by people than ever. Just because, you kind of, like in the sales world too, good salespeople, they take care of people. They earn the trust of people. And when you earn trust, I don't think a computer is going to have that same ability of, yes, I mean, for the AI nerds out there, yes, the computer is very smart. It comes out with a lot of good information too, and it should be used as a tool, but a tool to make the salesperson better,
right?
And I think that's where it's going to go on the high end. I mean, I think it will affect real estate. I'm sure Zillow and all those companies are really diving into it to make more money, because where there's ability to grow, there's greed, there's all that's going to take over, but I don't think it'll replace the in-person agent showing a multi-million-dollar house. So.
There's too many moving parts, too much emotion involved that AI could never handle. A wife texting or calling the agent freaking out at 10:30 at night. It's just never going to settle somebody down. It's never going to reassure somebody. AI doesn't have emotion.
Yeah.
And, in this business, agents, especially at that level, have to have not only good judgment, but some type of empathy and to deal with people.
Yeah.
And I just don't think a computer is going to be able to do that.
I might have you on in 2 years again, and we might look back at this, and we're going to be like, all right.
Or we're out there washing your windows.
Yeah, we're out of a job now. I got robots building houses and selling them.
I think a lot of it's, partially because of social media driven. I think a lot of it's a fad, to an extent. It's definitely working. It's definitely being used. It's canceling a lot of jobs in other industries, and it might, at a different price point of real estate, like you said, it could, take over to an extent. But I just know, like, the people that I've dealt with, my past year clientele, building, $7 to $9 million homes, they're not gonna use AI.
Yeah, I don't think a robot's going to be building their house anytime soon. Too. I mean, they'll use, and some of my clients now, they use AI to kind of get information, but some of that information that they've thrown back at me has not been correct too, because it's a different area of building too. And I have to reiterate that, if you're going to prompt AI, you need to say it is Southwest Florida, Naples, Florida, Marco Island, because our building is just different here. I mean, I had a guy message me on YouTube about why we use so many pilings here, and he builds on the beach in North Carolina. And I told him why, just because of the sand, everything. I gave him the full explanation. He's like, yeah, we should probably start doing that in North Carolina. Explains why the houses fall down when hurricanes happen. So it's just, if it's used as a tool, I think it's a great thing. And we'll see in the next couple of years where it's at, man, because it keeps going and going. But another question I wanted to ask you is, like, what does success mean to you now versus, 5 years ago or the last time we spoke?
5 years ago, I was, kind of caught up in, like, the flashiness of it and, wanting to take over, Naples and have my name everywhere and, looked at it a little bit different. Now, I feel totally different. I'm a little bit more laid back and I'm, a little bit more hidden, I like to say.
Comes with age.
Yeah,
right?
that too. And, I just, I kind of, Naples can do that too. I was born and raised here, definitely didn't grow up with money or, I grew up in Golden Gate and, so I got caught up in that for probably about a year or two and then quickly realized, like, this isn't who I am. This isn't, what I ever wanted. And so success now is just, keep building the brand, building the business, having a happy, healthy family. And, I just had a
shout out to you on that. Congrats.
Today's like my first official day back to work.
Josh is a little tired, if you all understand, having a newborn.
But, I just, now it's kind of, I just like to stay in our lane, keep our heads down, keep to ourselves and, just build our brand, not worry about anyone else. I was constantly trying to compete, constantly trying to, be something that we weren't, and just, I feel like my mindset on that has totally changed.
Yeah. And shout out to you on acknowledging that too, because most people don't. And that change, that shift that you just talked about too, I think it's going to just continue to get you bigger,
Hope so.
Well, it's the reason in having you on here, man, and this conversation we're having, the reason I wanted to have you on, not just strictly talk like, the ins of Marzucco like we did before, is because I wanted to highlight, like, you personally, because you're a real dude. I mean, what you say, like, since I've known you too, like, you say it, you do it. Like, it's not anything fake about Josh Marzucco too, and
appreciate
everybody that's come in here too is just real business owners, like doing the right thing, that want to take care of people. I can tell your agents matter to you. I just had a discussion with somebody the other day, a good friend of mine, and I was talking to him. I was like, the biggest thing, probably the biggest thing that's most important to me with our company is taking care of our employees.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a situation ever. Now, that's what drives me. I don't want to get in a situation ever where I can't pay them or take care of them or have them continue to grow and have success. And I think that's the driver, and I could hear that out of you too, that driver of the continued growth to be able to help these people live great lives. I mean, it's not just about you, it's about them. I mean, if it was about you, you wouldn't do 100% brokerage, right? You know, so there's a lot of work behind, and we've talked about that. There's a lot of work behind 100% brokerages versus other ones where, you know, they're getting 10, 15% or whatever, 20% sometimes. So just wanted to say that about you, man. It's
I appreciate that.
Yeah, because it goes a long way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I definitely humbled out the last few years, and I think that was crucial and needed to happen. And you know, going back to the 100% thing, like I find true joy. Like probably 2 years ago now, maybe a little less, we paid a 21-year-old, you know, sold a six something $1 million home, and we paid him like 145
That's
grand.
awesome.
And you know, our transaction fee was $350, and I helped him write most of the contract at like 9 o'clock at night, which is fine. That's just what we do. But you know, that's a life-changing, you know, commission for him. And you know, my thing is, if you know 100%, you don't get rich at all. I mean, I've told you that before. You can make a living, and you know, you can get joy doing it. But the thing is, if agents are happy and they're keeping their commission and they're, you know, reinvesting in their own branding and marketing, if they're happy, they're going to go tell 10 other agents that they're happy. And, you know, that's 10 other agents that could potentially join. And that's how we recruit.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you know, what we've done since day one.
Yeah, man. I love it. And like I said, I commend you on it. I see the growth. I see what you're doing too, man. So I'm glad I could have you on and shout you out on this. And, God bless you, man, on the new baby, too. I got one on the way here shortly, so we're going to be in the same boat. We're going to be a little bit more heavy-eyed on this show, too. So, but appreciate you and your time today, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
And you guys know the routine. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Share this one for sure to everybody, and you'll share the YouTube when it comes out. And listen on all podcast platforms, and we will see you guys on the next episode. The Real Build is about building better culture, leaders, visionaries, community to better serve the client. I'm your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder, and I'm here to showcase real business owners building companies with integrity, trust, and a commitment to making a positive impact. Join us as we explore their stories, insights, and strategies for success. With that being said, welcome to The Real Build.
Behind, so live a life you will.